My physical journey into fitness started out of the ashes of a divorce. I was
Mm.
in a painful marriage, and it was my second marriage. So, by all intents and purposes, you could say, well, I failed once, and now this is number two. I'm
Sure,
failing again.
sure.
Um, with that came a lot of depression. I had a child from my first marriage. Um, and so I already felt like I was failing. Things were spinning
Mm.
downward. My career, on the other hand, musically, I'm a musician, um, lifelong musician.
Yeah.
Everything was beautiful. I was pouring into that part of my passion, and that looked great on paper.
Awesome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of It Is What It Is podcast. I am your host, Cody Kelly. Look, I am so excited about this episode. I appreciate all my guests, but it is amazing to connect with people and to learn about them, and especially connect on a faith level. So we have an amazing person that's really going to talk about really their journey in fitness and faith, and it's going to just be an amazing time. But before you do, you want to keep seeing amazing influencers, leaders. You know what you got to do? You got to connect with your boy on Instagram at CVMK33 and on the business page at CVMK_global. Hit me up on the website, www.cvmkglobal.store, where you'll get the best supplements and drip. Like these two, I brought them out just in case you can see it. For the men, we got Batter Up. For the women, we got Glow Up. We got the pre-workout line, BCAA, the protein. That's all there at www.cvmkglobal.store. And you know the deal. Subscribe to the YouTube page, both YouTube pages. The first one at YouTube at CV space K, and the second one at CVMK Global Fitness. With that being said, Robin, how are you doing today?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Blessed. I'm really appreciative of this opportunity. Really, want to just hone out and highlight some things. Sometimes when I'm contacting guests, I always look for things that I think might connect with the audience, something that's unique, something that sticks, and I think is very different from a lot of other things I see posted. And we belong to similar fitness groups, and I like fitness. I don't use it for a vanity reason. Obviously, I have the business portion on the side, but I always try to use it as an instrument to highlight my faith, maybe in a bit nuanced way, right? But really seeing that Christ is the center of this, is not just for abs and biceps, that there is some true aim and purpose to all of this. And came across your profile and a uniqueness that you shared this same faith. You shared the same faith and really wanted to highlight in your journey. And it wasn't about getting likes and getting followers. And it's okay. And I'm not judging anybody who goes down this path. It's for any and all, right? If you want to, do this for the gram, you can do this for the gram. But if you want to really be a true leader and inspirer of those that really want to help motivate, that's to me is what separates. So with that being said, why? I mean, like before you got, what really started you on your way in this fitness journey?
Oh, well, before I say any words, I just want to first just say thank you. Thank you for this platform, for giving all of us an opportunity to share our faith, share our stories. We all know that testimony, the root of that is test. So any walk that you have, there's going to be a test. There are going to be potholes, there are going to be hurdles, and we're all called to continue to walk with endurance. That is what fuels my faith. So thank you for this opportunity to share some of my trials and some of my triumphs as well. I'm very grateful. Um, my fitness journey started out of a trial, really. My whole life, I always grew up as a shy kid, never
Sure.
really focused on my outward appearance, always focused on the inward. I was blessed with parents and am blessed with parents who always emphasized our spiritual walk. Um, my dad, much later than my mom. My mom was really the spiritual leader in our house. And later on, through a lot of prayer, my dad came around,
Yeah.
and that was a blessing. But my physical journey into fitness started out of the ashes of a divorce. I was
Mm.
in a painful marriage. And it was my second marriage. So, by all intents and purposes, you could say, well, I failed once, and now this was number two. I'm failing again.
Sure.
Um, with that came a lot of depression. I had a child from my first marriage. Um, and so I already felt like I was failing. Things were
Mm.
spinning downward. My career, on the other hand, musically, I'm a musician, um, lifelong musician. Everything was beautiful. I was pouring into that part of my passion, and that looked great on paper. So a lot of
Mm.
times we can walk around and look like everything is well, right? But on the inside, things are crumbling, things are dying. Um, I was married to a man who was broken and struggling with alcohol addiction. And I don't say that to disparage him. I just say that to say that it was a difficult situation, that um, he was struggling with a lot of things that were coming from childhood,
Sure.
and that resulted in this habit that became perpetually worse. And it's a disease. It really started to seep into our marriage. It affected how we interacted with one another. And we both just couldn't take it anymore. I, in particular, said enough is enough.
Mm.
Um, it got to a place where it became abusive, and I had to talk to God about that. I cried out many times.
Sure.
Um, but from that, without going too far down that rabbit hole, I will say that I had a talk with God, and I said, I don't like how I'm feeling, not only emotionally, spiritually, but physically. I felt the weight of that period of my life. And consequently, I gained about 100 pounds over the 4 years that we were married. And even prior to that, when I had my child, I never really, got back into the physical place where I was. A lot of
Yeah.
times that happens, of course, when we just let ourselves go. And then when depression and difficult times creep in, you know, you kind of keep going down that downward spiral, and that's what was happening. And I got to a place where I was at my peak weight in my life, which I will just say was 265 pounds. For me, that was carrying too much for my frame.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I said, all right, God, enough is enough. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I don't have money for a gym. I don't have any fancy plans for a diet. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to focus on my walk with you. And I
Hmm.
said, I'm going to actually walk. I'm going to walk with you, and I'm going to walk. So I said, I have sneakers. I'm going to walk with you for 20 minutes a day, Lord. And I
Yeah.
said, those 20 minutes, I am focusing
Mm.
on my spiritual walk. I was living in Baltimore City at the time with my ex-husband, and I would just put on my sneakers, walk through the city, 20 minutes, come home. That was the beginning of my journey. And I didn't miss a day. And I still don't believe in missing a day except to rest in the Lord.
Yeah.
But I made that commitment to myself. Within 3 months, I dropped 30 pounds. I was eating well, but I was conscious of what I was eating. So I wasn't eating everything well. The things that I knew I needed to cut,
Yeah.
just like in our spiritual journey, there are things that you have to cut out, things that
Sure.
need to be circumcised. So I said, all right, I don't need that extra large iced coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, as good as it is. I don't need that every day.
Yeah.
Save myself some money. So cutting out little things that just didn't need to be there in my life, physically, emotionally, mentally, started me on that path. It was 2013. So 9 years later, here I am. I dropped 100 pounds in
Wow.
4 years. So it wasn't a fast process. My goal wasn't to, be super thin, or it was just to be healthy and to be focused and to turn my life around by God's grace. So that's where it is. And I'm so passionate about fitness because it's not just about the physical, as you mentioned.
I like that. First of all, thank you for sharing that. And when people share their stories, it takes great courage, because it is your story. It is a unique experience that you have gone through, and to share it openly opens you up for critique, unfairly so. But it is so salvific to be free of that weight. You mentioned something that is so true, and I think that we got to really focus on. Isn't it amazing that one area of your life can be so just on fire and positive and growing and exploding, and then there's another area that is sinking and drowning, and you get judged by the LinkedIn profile. You get judged by the resume, but
Right.
but the whole persona, the whole picture of you really isn't clearly understood. And it really takes the Lord to give you the words to communicate that type of frustration, and to have that type of dialogue so that positive resolution can occur. And I don't know why I've been on this resolution, like that's like my word for today, resolution. I feel like every day I get a word that I say more than 5 times, and I'm just like, yeah, resolution, resolution, So, and I don't know if it's because I've been, watching all these, kind of highlights of, Will and Chris, but it's like resolution. We need a resolution, So, but the reality is, the Lord took you through a very trying time, and you mentioned, it wasn't an overnight thing. 4 years, and I think people really have to understand that this process, it is a life journey. It's not like
Yes.
by the summer I'll be like this, like it doesn't work like that. That's the wrong approach. But you went on this journey, and over the span of time you transformed.
Yes.
Is there a space, and maybe that's the uniqueness, would you consider it a ministry, right? Like sometimes we don't look at fitness as a ministry.
Yes.
We come from a Christian background, and we talk about the fivefold ministry, and basically the ministry is relegated to the pulpit and maybe a couple other sources. But if you mention fitness, is like something like totally oxymoronic, right? It's like no, it's not, but it is.
It
God
is.
the body. So for you, right? So you have a story that is so relatable to so many people. I mean, you talked about feeling like a failure. You talked about being on the second marriage. Talked about having a child from the first, and having to not just pick up the pieces, but paint a whole new picture with the pieces. Now you're in this mode. Do you feel like the Lord has gifted you with a unique ministry?
Absolutely. I've always had a love of communication.
Sure.
Honestly, for me, the root of ministry is communication. And to be able to relate to people, you have to be able to listen. One of the most important things about being a musician or an artist is having listening ears. I think that's essential for everyone. If I can't hear you, then I can't respond to you. If I can't respond to my environment, I can't change. So if I'm walking through life with my ears closed, my eyes closed, I'm not able to adapt. I'm not able to be of the world or in the world and function. I think that a lot of times as Christians, we tend to think that we are so far above the fray that we can't relate, forgetting where we came from and where we still are. We're still in the miry clay.
Right.
I am the first person to call myself out. I have to be, because if I wait for someone else to do it, I might just be getting a bunch of likes and a bunch of amens and go ahead, sister, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. But the Lord says that he prunes those who he loves.
Hmm.
He will cut you if you're wrong. He'll cut you if you're right, because you cannot grow if you're not cut, if you're not pruned. So we all have to go through that process every day. Our righteousness is as filthy rags. So
Yeah.
if we don't walk in that knowledge, that humility, or the beginner's mind, then
Hmm.
there's no way that we can be one with someone else. And that's the beginning of intimacy. So if I'm not intimate with my fellow man, then why am I here?
Sure. Sure.
That's ministry to me. It's not about standing up on stage. It's not about being in a pulpit. It's about, how do you walk? How do you walk down the street? How do you treat people who are in your everyday life, people who are in your home? Do you see people around you? Do you hear them? Do you sit with them? That's what Jesus did.
Yeah.
He wasn't out there trying to be cute. He was out in the trenches with people. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
Hmm. I like it. I think you hit up on something. Do you see people? I wonder, have we entered into an era where we have a superficial understanding of loving the community, loving our brothers and sisters? The Bible talks about, form of godliness, but even more deeper, when it says that the love of many shall wax cold.
Mm,
Like it's almost seems like we do it for the attention of being seen,
yeah,
but not out of just the authenticity and the genuineness in our heart, that we care about the well-being of all.
yeah,
And we have a very selective a very selective care and admonition, and it's problematic because it's basically putting up one against the other. And, I've been trying not to comment on yesterday's events in the Oscars. Because I first of all, I don't know the two gentlemen. I always feel like you can't really comment on something you really don't know. And then I don't know their unique situation. I only know what was seen, what was displayed, what happened on, what was shown on Instagram. And I thought to myself, this is, before you judge it, this has layers to it. And then I read a status that really kind of checked me. The status read, the reality is both men lose. And I was just kind of flabbergasted, and I thought to myself, are we so tribal now, right? That even to the point we will hinder faith and the love of Christ because we want to win. Like fitness was never supposed to be about winning. You mentioned, you said you were in this situation and you needed help, and God walked with you. You weren't even doing it necessarily to create a sweat. You weren't looking at your Nike app watch and say, oh, I walked 3,000 steps today, I must be on track. Like you were just doing it. And because you were doing it as you went, the Lord started to just allow you to shed the pounds, allow you to create the body you wanted to have. Right. So, but there's a lot of, I got to do this because I want to win. And I think that winning initiative and aim is pride. Pride is the spirit of pride. How do you, in this path, because you have achieved results, how do you not fall for that?
That's a really tough and convicting question, because I think we all wrestle with pride. We all wrestle with the desire to be seen and the desire to be acknowledged, right? I think that's why a lot of these fitness groups exist, because it's a platform for people to showcase their hard work. For me, one way that I always check myself is by centering myself. Why am I doing this? In addition to being a musician, I'm also a nurse. So I see a lot of suffering. I take care of a lot of people at their worst moments. And it's extremely humbling for me. And it's a great reminder that I'm blessed that I have eyes that I can see you. I'm blessed that I have ears that I can hear. I have lungs that work. So when I look at myself, I don't just see, this thing that I built. It has
Hmm.
nothing to do with me. I realize so easily how I can fail, how I can crumble, how I can fall. Um, I take note of those moments and I really commit them to my heart. I make it a point when I post anything um, related to fitness, I always tie it in to God because He's the one who's given me the ability to move, to breathe, to start each day. And so many times I don't even hardly have the strength, to get up, to drag myself to the gym. So who am I to sit there and say, I'm so great, I built this temple? No, I worked hard. I still work hard, but I don't have the ability to put a breath inside my body.
Hmm.
He created me. And with every breath, I'd rather give him that glory so that he can be glorified because he's the one who made it possible. The other thing that I'll say to that effect is that I really do believe fitness is a journey in self mastery.
What's up? I'm super pumped. Just got done with another workout. It's your boy CVMK33. Connect me on Instagram and on the business page, CVMK_global. You know how I get through it. You know how I get that pump looked. Best pre-workout on the market. www.cvmkglobal.store.
Everything that we do is a journey in self mastery. And to become a master of yourself, you have to empty yourself. You know, when we're empty, that's when we can be filled. So I start each day really feeling like I'm empty, ready to receive God's blessings. I'm ready to pour out something for someone else, right? But it doesn't come from me being this full cup, this perfection. I don't have that. I don't have that. The moment I think that I'm great is when I'm the worst I can be. And I know that very well from being a musician. The moment I think I nailed this passage, that's when it's gonna suck. Honestly.
That's absolutely correct. It is self mastery. It is a discipline.
Yes.
Um, it is so timeless and yet so true. I think because of the way it has been marketed, instead of it being self mastery, it is now evolved into self glory.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
self glory is not mastery.
Not at all. Because
Mastery
if, you,
manifests.
if you're glorified, then you've achieved everything.
Right,
Right?
right.
I'm not where I want to be.
No, same here, same here. I still got to sometimes hold my stomach in when I take my photos. Like, hold on, wait, I'm not there yet, dog. I'm not there yet. A little, no, but it's self mastery. Is his humility
Yes.
personified. And from this personification, we get an unfolding of a process that is uniquely not ours.
Yes.
And I think that's the key that's missing from all of this, from fitness, from just everything, is that we have taken God out of it and have left it up to our own imaginations. And I've gotten to a point, and I was telling my wife, like, even I think when I started, I wanted, to do this. I wanted to get in shape. And then, when we started the business, we started the health supplement line and everything, it was like, okay, I got to be this image. I got to do this thing. And I'm not saying that it didn't yield some results, but I did not feel whole in it because I felt like I was doing it for them. I was doing it for image, but I wasn't doing it for God's glory. And I'm at my happiest when I'm not being glorified.
Yes.
So it's weird that, like, now I'm trying to figure out, Jesus, how do I take this, whatever this is,
Mm.
in a space where they're, where faith is not a thing. It's not that necessarily it's anti-faith, because it's not. It's just when you think of people exercising, you don't think of that. You don't think of it in terms of spirituality, traditionally speaking. How do I take this vehicle and allow people to see you in it? And that to me is my goal. People ask me, well, what's your goal for 2022? And I'm like, my goal is more Jesus,
Right.
and less me,
Word,
and less me.
word.
So I got one more question, Rob. You have been absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Uh, you're a musician. I unfortunately I don't possess the musical gifts. Uh, as a musician, I would say people who are musicians, they have a hunger and a thirst for this art that, if it's just a hobby, and I think it correlates to fitness, you won't get, right. And that's the truth. Anybody that's really about it understands, like, it's a hunger and a thirst. It's not a hobby. Like,
Right.
if the gym closed down, when the gym closed down, a lot of people lost it, right? Like, it's because for some of us, it's a hunger and a thirst. So talk about that just quickly. Your musicianship.
Oh, I definitely say it's about communication again. Like
Yeah.
I call myself a muse rather than a musician, because a muse is direct connection to God. That's when we think of the Greek muses, if we think of
Right.
mythology, and not to liken God to the mythology, but it's a relationship, right?
Right. Right.
So as a musician, it's that desire to communicate humanity through sound. So that is where the drive is in creating or cultivating your craft as a musician. It's how can I work these skills to the point where I can effortlessly communicate how imperfect I am as a human. It's kind of an oxymoron, but it's the same thing with fitness for me. I'm training so that I have an ease of movement. It doesn't mean that there's perfection, but it means that I'm building something. I'm working on something. And, I most of my journey has been alone. I've
Mm.
been walking the streets alone. That little walk turned to a shuffle, then it turned to a jog, and then it, became other things that I didn't think I would ever be able to do. But through the community, like social media, virtual community, I was able to meet people who I saw were struggling
Hmm.
every day to sweat. We think of sweat as equity, right? It's a sign that I've put my nose to the grindstone and I'm working on something. I'm working on my temple, working
Hmm.
on my mind, how to focus, how to see a goal and go after it. It's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with being a mom. It's the same thing with being a friend, being a wife, a husband. If you don't put that work in every day, you're going to lose it. You will lose it. So you have to be so intentional. And like you said, your word, my word is intentional. I'm
Hmm.
intentional about what I say, about what I do, about the goals that I set. Um, and the goals that I set are rather non-specific, I will say,
Hmm.
because I don't think a lot is in my control. Um,
Yeah.
that doesn't lessen the effort that I put into things. It just relieves me of the idea that I'm going to achieve something on my own.
Sure.
I know the work that I have to put in to get to some of the places that I want to get, but I'm open to say, hey, just like conversation, there's a pause, there's an exchange. I'm open to respond to whatever God's going to give me or whatever Minister Cody is going to say to me. I don't have to know.
Sure.
So that's the freedom in walking in faith. I don't know, but I trust.
Hmm.
That's
That's
where
the
it
word for the day. I don't know, but I trust. And if we can master that, we'll be all the better for it. That is
it is
definitely
what it
something.
is, my dear.
It is what it is. If I don't know, but I trust. Hey, this has been an amazing episode. Robert, where can they connect with you? Where can the people follow you and support you and get your music? What can they
Oh,
do?
thank you for having me. This has been awesome, and I hope you have so many subscribers after this and before this. This is a wonderful ministry. Thank you,
No problem.
and God bless you and your wife. I will say, as a footnote, um, instead of talking about Chris and Will, let's pray for them. I mean, I that's all we need to do, really. So with that, you can always connect with me on Facebook. I am Robin Massie, and I'm open. I'm just like you. I don't discriminate when I see someone who might just want to connect. I'm very communicative. I'm also on IG. My handle is the little at sign at Mercy Musicians. So that's me.
Awesome. Y'all connect with Robin. Hit her up on IG, hit her up on Facebook. Just amazing gift to the body of Christ, amazing gift to the world. And if you want to keep seeing amazing content, you know what you got to do. Connect your boy on Instagram, CVMK33, and the business page, CVMK_global. Subscribe to the YouTube page, YouTube at CV_K. And you know where you get the best supplements from. I'm talking about the best pre-workouts, best protein, vegan line, best BCAA, superpower, saucy, transform. You know where to get it. www.cvmkglobal.store. And until next time, guys, thanks.